Yeah, and how different is your job when you're playing a team like Oregon that they're not going to throw the ball a ton, they're going to run a lot, and then this week face Oregon State, who maybe might be a little more balanced.
Yeah. It's a huge difference compared to the two. Oregon fast tempo. They're trying to get as many plays out as possible, from 80 to 90 plays in one game, and just the personnel's a lot different, than Oregon State's. Everyone on the field with Oregon is fast, and you got to watch out for every single person on that field. And like you said, they're not as big as the passing team. And comparing the two, it's light and day. And with Oregon State, it's probably a little harder because you don't really know what's coming, because they pound the ball, and at the same time they're a huge play action team. So, and they have huge threats in the receivers. They're fast. Their quarterback, has a huge arm, and he's not afraid to throw it downfield. So, with Oregon, I feel like we knew the people that they were going to go to the most, and Kenyon Barner and DeAnthony. This week it's more of a balanced team, and they can go to their tight ends, the receivers, or the running backs. So it's definitely a difference.
When you played them last year in Seattle, did you get the sense from that game that they could be a team that really took a big step forward this year at Oregon State?
Definitely. Especially from last year, you've seen the score. I feel like, they came out with a chip on their shoulders, and they're a team that everyone needs to watch out for. Nobody needs to take it for granted, and you can even see it on film. You see it on film. You can see it through the play that they've shown through the last 3-4 games, and they're a team to watch out for. And they've earned their respect. And we're going to go into this game hitting them with everything we got.
You guys kind of took away DeAnthony in terms of what he usually does and what he did, but how difficult was he in the game plan where they run him out of a flare and that would open up space for Kenyon Barner? Was he still affecting everything even though he wasn't putting up numbers?
He definitely was. I was talking before. When he went on that flare, usually I'd have to go out there and man him up, and that opened a whole huge gap for, Kenyon, and, kind of leave the linebackers, with one-on-one on Kenyon Barner, which is hard to do. And, but at the same time, like I said, it definitely made an impact, having to have one person always on, a threat like that. So, whether he's catching all these balls and getting the screens and running for touchdowns and stuff like that, it's still a job to man him up, without him doing anything.
And how's the process going in figuring out what the refs are interpreting as a legal and illegal hit in terms of both what you're doing and what say Tyree Toomer did last week?
It's definitely it's understandable. You gotta be aware of where you're hitting the receiver. That's all it is. It's a rule, and you gotta abide by the rules. And like I said, of course it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. When you're going full speed, you're trying to make a play on the ball, and you go above the shoulders. You put the hands to the face, or you do one of the illegal rules that have been taking place. But it's something that we all have to adjust to, and I feel we're doing a good job of adjusting to it. Like with Tyree, I feel like I'm not really sure where the penalty was. The ball was there, and he took a swap at the ball, and I'm not, I can't say I agree with it, but at the same time, you got to be aware of your own body and controlling yourself on the field.
With your two, it looked like you kind of understood the first, but less so the second.
Oh,
a couple games ago.
Yeah. With those, for sure. The first it was definitely uncalled for. I've said that before, and I definitely apologize. But the second one, that was just, I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I don't mean to try to play, be a dirty player or try to, hurt anybody in any way. I'm just out there trying to, play my heart out. But at the same time, I need to abide by the rules just like everyone else.
That's something you just kind of have to put out of your mind, and if you get flagged, you get flagged for some of these, but you're targeting a guy up for the whole secondary, and you can't really worry about what the refs are going to call because you're going to play scared.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you get penalized, you got to throw it out of your head, because like if you have that, that penalty in your head the whole time, then it's going to hold you back from making other plays. Like, what if you're going full speed on the receiver and you intercept the ball? It's not necessarily a hit. You can't have that in your head, holding you back from the rest of the game. And but like I said, at the same time, you still have to be aware, and for the safety, not only for yourself but for the receivers as well.
What's the change been like? I mean, the first 2 games you played alongside Taylor, and it's Casey out there with some Tyree mixed in too. Has that been an adjustment for you?
It would definitely be. It would be nice if there was one, consistent safety. But at the same time, it's like I love playing with all those safeties. I love playing with all of them. I've played, by them, since I don't know how long it's been since I got here. I've played with each and every one, Casey and Tyree. So really, it's not much of a difference for me. So it doesn't really matter, whoever they have on the field. I'm just gonna play as hard as I possibly can, and he's gonna play as hard as he possibly can for me. So either way, whoever it is, Taylor, Casey, or Tyree, honestly, they all have different skills. So it's good that they're all out there, contributing in different ways each and every time they get on the field.
What's the biggest difference, would you say, between having Taylor there and having Casey there?
I feel Taylor, he's fundamentally, and he's a freshman. He kind of hesitates sometimes, but at the same time, his fundamentals are definitely there. That's why he got on the field early, is because he understood the defense the fastest, out of the other safeties, and that's why we got him on the field. And with Casey, he's a ball hawk. He's a ball hawk, and he gets to the ball. And with Casey, he's 100% on every play. No matter if he misses a tackle, he's going to miss that tackle 100%. If he makes a tackle, he's going to make it 100%. The thing about Casey is, right after he makes a play, he gets up like next play. I'm ready for the next play. Whatever they're going to throw at me, I'm ready for it. So either way, they bring different stuff to the table, but it's definitely cool playing with both of them.
Is Casey a guy that they can bring down in the box and just kind of leave you in center field to roam? Is that kind of what's going on with that?
Yeah, definitely. That's how we've been playing that a lot like that. We put Casey down in the box, and like you said, I'll be in the middle of the field. That's how Coach Bresky usually tells us in our meetings to do. And Casey comes up hard on the run. He comes up hard on the run, and that's definitely an asset to the team.
You feel like you've grown in pass coverage and playing single high now that you have a pretty good feel for it. You've got 3 picks on the year, so it seems like you're finding yourself in the right place at the right times.
Yeah, I definitely, but mostly it goes from the defensive line and Travis. If I'm gonna be completely honest, they put so much pressure on the quarterback where it's almost like I'm invisible. So it's Travis. It's self-explanatory. He's a force on that field. I don't know what his stats are, to be honest, but I've heard that leading the nation in sacks, and to have somebody on the field, that presence, and the quarterback knows he's there, so he's just gonna throw it up, and I just need to be in the right place, for the team.
That being said, how big are turnovers for this defense? How does that energize the team?
Oh, it's huge. Turnovers are huge for this defense, especially going against big teams, and it's going to be huge this week. We need to go out there and we need to play the whole game like we played the first half against Oregon, and that's all it is to it.
You guys really contained Oregon's passing offense this last week. You're going to be going up against a pretty pass-happy Oregon State offense, and that put up some pretty big numbers. What kind of confidence can you take from the Oregon game leading up to Oregon State?
A bunch of confidence. Coach Leach, he was telling us, we're not into moral victories, but this was a huge step for us. It was a huge step for us to understand where we are as a team, and to know, like I said earlier, to know that we have the potential to play with anybody. We have the potential to play with anybody, and that's how we're gonna go to every game. We're gonna learn from this game. It's a loss, but we're gonna learn from this game just like any other game, and we're gonna go to this week preparing. As hard as we did for Oregon and each and every other game.
You guys didn't practice yesterday, not today again. Does the team need rest, and also what are the perks of getting the rest up? I
think it's more. I think it's more of us getting in the film room. More than rest. We just coaches harped on us. Getting the film, understanding our opponent. So we can. So when we're on the field, we can see everything happening before it actually happens. So I honestly think that it has a little to do with the rest, but mostly I think it's to get in the film room and to understand what we're trying to do for this next upcoming game.
You guys watch film. Obviously you do it as a team, but is there an expectation that you can only be so good if you're the only film you watch is with the team? I mean, do you have to do some individually too to really be kind of get that greater understanding?
Yeah, definitely. We have our own system. We have a system online that's called Huddy, and we have and we have a log that we have to log in. A certain amount of hours, that we do each week. So it definitely makes a difference. And the coaches don't, it's not only, a team film session. That's what's required. They want us to be in there individually to get our own work, and it's not so it's not really a requirement. But at the same time, if you want to be a great player and play for the best for your team, it's the best that you get in there and get as much film work as possible, because I mean, with a team, there's only so much that you can learn. But when you're by yourself and you're going through the plays individually and you're visualizing yourself making these plays, it helps a lot when you get out there on the field.
What's your setup like? Can you take that anywhere? So you have an iPad, or does that make it more comfortable for you too?
Yeah, definitely. You can take it wherever you want. If you have an iPad, computer, if you have an iPhone, you can do it on your iPhone. So it's an online thing. So there's no excuse for not what you feel by yourself, because you can do it whenever you want, and it really helps you.
What's the team's attitude just been like over the last 24 hours?
Our attitude has been just to play as hard as we can. I haven't really been on the team as much. I mean, when we were in the film room, when we were in our meeting last night, coach was just talking about how we need to finish games. It really was. We don't have a different attitude going into any other game than we did Oregon. We just, as a team, you understand how we can mature and finish games. For the most part.
Is there an added motivation going into these games as the underdog? Do you look to go out there and beat the odds, or take every game in stride?
Definitely. We go out there. We're going out there with a chip on our shoulders. We understand we're underdog, but at the same time, no matter who we play, we want to play them the same way. We play LSU. The coach always says, if it doesn't matter who we play, we're playing Pullman High School. We want to play Pullman High School the same way we play LSU. We want to play them as hard as we possibly can. No matter who it is. And I feel, like I said, that's what it is with us. We want to play up to competition, but we also want to play down to competition. And I feel we need to play up to our level, who we are. Cougar football, and once we play to our potential, and Cougar football, I don't see us really having trouble with anyone. I feel we can play with anybody in the country.
Your freshman year, you went down there and kind of stunned Oregon State. Is that something you can draw upon?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. We don't really live in the past as much, but we're gonna go into it, and we're just gonna go into it with a stride. We're gonna play them like, to be honest, we haven't played them before. We don't want to bring up anything in the past, because in the past they beat us last year. So it's like, anything can happen this year, and we're gonna go into it just playing as hard as we possibly can.